everyone. I am super excited. We're here with David Seal. If you don't know him, you should be following him right now. He just hit 100,000 followers on YouTube. Yachts for sale, right? Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
He even got an acknowledgement from YouTube, the gods of YouTube, to send him a plaque or something.
I've got that. I don't know if you can see me. It's my plaque.
You see, you work hard, you will get the props from YouTube. I was so excited when I asked yesterday on my stories, where were you all in the world to test what's happening around you with coronavirus that everybody's talking about. And David is actually based in Italy, which I didn't know. So I wanted him to talk to us a little bit and tell us what is he seeing in yachting. He has a lot of connections in shipyards, so he can tell us a little bit more insights that we actually see on the news. David, what do you see? How are you, first of all?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm fine. And from the health perspective, I'm really not too worried because I'm fairly healthy. I have a good, strong immune system, and I'm doing everything that the government suggested. I'm keeping myself in my home. I'm fortunate enough to have a home office. I'm going out really only just to get a little bit of exercise and to get some sunlight. But to be honest, it's a really eerie atmosphere at the moment in Italy. There's a real sensation of we're going through something that has never happened before. The entire country in quarantine is really quite dramatic, and I have to say that I greatly admire the courage of the Italian government in taking such a massive step, because it couldn't have been an easy decision, possibly one of the most difficult decisions a government has ever had to make. But I just don't see any other way around it. The virus is spreading. There's still not enough known about it. Sadly, the death toll in Italy is going up every single day. It was, I think, 2 days ago, it was just under 100. Yesterday, 3 days ago, just under 100. Yesterday, 160 something, up to almost 200. So that's real reason for concern. But the government's doing the right thing. I think the Italians are reacting in the right manner. They're really taking the quarantine very, very seriously. You can't go to a supermarket like you could before. You have to wait outside for tickets, and only 10 people at a time are allowed into the supermarket. When you get to the till to pay, there are boxes between you and the cashier, so that you have to kind of extend your arm out to pay the money, and you don't get too close to the cashier.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's really quite extreme. Restaurants and all public places are closing at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's a very, very eerie and unusual situation.
For those that don't know what the government has said, or what are you guys doing, can you actually give us like a little list? What has the government told you guys to implement?
Yes. If you, for example, go to a bar for a cappuccino, you have to stay a meter away from people around you. And actually, the police are monitoring that. They're making sure that people really do stay away from each other. Then there's a form that you can download online and fill in. And if you have to go anywhere, you really are well advised to fill in that form, which says where you're going, why it's so important, and that you're aware of the penalties of lying on that form. So if
I
I
know
want to
you could
go
go
down,
to jail, right? If you lied on the form.
I think it's 3 months. Somebody said 6 months, but I believe it's 3 months jail time, potentially, or a very hefty fine. So it's not something to take lightly. And, as I mentioned to you earlier, my son has started as an apprentice at Ferretti Yachts.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm so pleased that he's got a job, I can tell you. Because he certainly wasn't going anywhere at school. So to get this apprenticeship, I actually said to him, partially inspired by a certain Mr. Vaynerchuk, I said to myself, just quit school. You're 18 years old. You've been dropped 3 times from school. You hate the place. You hate your exams. Get a job. Go out and get a job if you hate it so much. Yeah. And good on him. He went out and he's got an apprenticeship for a company that does the electrical systems for Ferretti Yachts. And you know, he was there today. He's worked a full day. He gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't think he even knew there was a 5 o'clock in the morning. But you know, he worked all day today, yesterday. They're already making plans. Ferretti,
So
there's
Ferretti is
plans.
open. Ferretti is
Ferretti,
open and working.
Ferretti, Benetti's open. I was talking to them this morning because we have some video projects for my YouTube channel, which are underway with them and also with Ferretti Group. But they're having to kind of cut their cloth according to the circumstances. So the suppliers, for example, Tommy's company that he's working with, are changing the hours so that they do two shifts, so that not too many people are all in the factory at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're working their way around a pretty difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. From what I read, the best thing to prevent is isolation, keeping the distance. So, like you were saying, a meter away from other people at cafes. That is definitely the right approach. It gives you a little bit of distance when someone coughs. Someone coughs in my subway in New York, and I almost had a panic attack. But I was listening today, and in China, there were cases going up that from 3,500 a day, now they're down to 24 a day. That's a huge number. And what they did, aside from the isolation, was everywhere you were, you would get tested. Going into your residency, there would be someone there taking your temperature, going into your job. So now there, again, people are moving around, but every single step you take, someone is testing you, and they were dramatically, they just were able to lower the numbers from the place that is the source, which is China. So I think that gave me a little hope.
Yeah, I think even though it's you can't get away from it, it's a grave and serious situation. But I don't think it's a desperate or a hopeless situation by a long, long way. People are taking the right measures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that a lot of money's been spent on finding out what the hell this virus is and what we need to
Mm-hmm.
do to cure it or to prevent it. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's a totally bad thing to be forced to just take a break from your normal routine, stay at home, find other ways of work, find other ways to work, and just reflect a little bit on the more important things. I mean, I say that with a caveat if you can afford to do that.
Correct.
As we discussed, I think it's going to be tremendously difficult for people who are on the edge financially. And I think those people are going to need a lot of support and compassion and assistance. But if you're in a position financially that this is not going to bankrupt you, it's an opportunity to look at the way that you do business, to look at whether it's really necessary to travel quite as much as we do. And as you know, in our business, we travel an awful lot.
Correct.
Just find if there's a better way of doing things.
Correct. If you can, definitely isolate yourself. Like you're saying, there's so many benefits from now taking a breather if you can. I did love Robert from Emerson yesterday, I think it was yesterday, posted how vigilant stewardess and crew are cleaning the yacht. So if you actually are on board, you could actually be isolated within a beautiful and luxurious space. So you will be safe. I thought that was awesome. But for those that can, we do understand, and we will support those from people that work in kitchens and restaurants. Thankfully, health insurance in Europe is a lot better, I guess, than in the United States. So they were saying that we in the United States, if that's where I am, we would be hit more because people would guess question themselves many times before they didn't go to their jobs. Like even if they were feeling bad, but I do have to pay rent. Thankfully, things in Europe, you have the support of the government, and like in Italy, that has said, "This is what it is. We have to contain this." Well, I'm happy you are very calm. I expected from the news because everything's so alarming that you would see people like crazed around, but there are measurements that are guiding you. I think that the hardest thing is when you don't know what to do, and you're
Yeah.
just thinking what is the best thing because everything's so unknown.
Yeah, and I think the Italians internationally get a bad rap for being disorganized and panicky, but
Passion.
I they're passionate. That's right. But I take my hat off to the government for what they've done on this occasion, because it was a ballsy move to quarantine the entire country, but it was the right move. And the Italian people, from what I see in the little village where I live, because actually I can't even go outside of my village, I have to stay within the parameters of the village.
So what happens? Someone in the border, how can someone stop you? Like,
well, no, they can't. I mean, it's not become a police state or anything like that, but it's been made very, very clear through the media what the rules are. And I think the vast majority of people are conscientious and responsible enough to realize why those rules are there and to abide by them. And they've upped, I believe, they've increased the amount of police checks. And by putting in a heavy penalty for people who are not abiding by the laws, that'll discourage a lot of people too.
yeah, that's what they were saying. The moment you find us, people actually start paying attention. Sadly, I guess it's the human nature to keep pushing. And they were saying also that I don't know if all of us, but this was only a report from the United States. There was a huge mindset of that was not going to happen to me. This is not as bad as people think. I even saw someone posting, Italians, you're exaggerating, which I thought was completely ignorant, until it happens to someone they actually know. And that's when they take things seriously. In my case, we were all saying the same thing. That's over there. We only have a few cases in the United States. And then my office building had a case. Therefore, work from home if you want it. If this is still not obligatory, this is if you want to work from home. We are in the subway. Millions of people ride the subway every day. What can you do? What can you do if you actually have to get on? Exactly what you were saying about the Ferretti implementations. Avoid rush hour.
Well,
Go.
you know what is absolutely right. And 10 days ago, just 10 days ago, I was talking exactly like every other knucklehead, basically saying there's nothing to worry about. What an overreaction. It's just the flu. But then, just like you just said, I heard of one case locally. Then I hear of the amount of deaths and the amount of cases, and it's getting more and more and more each day. What has absolutely amazed me is that usually money is the biggest single motivator uh, that exists, and yet the government has made a decision which financially is going to be very, very harmful to the country, but they've done it because it's the right thing to do for the health of the country.
Yeah. No, of course. When it is hard to make, like you say, it's such a not radical, but it is a black and white decision, and it harms a lot of people, but it actually saves a lot of people as well. And I was exactly like you. Only a few days ago, I was thinking, just brush it off, until I learned, because I was comparing this. I still remember when we had the swine flu H1N1, because at that point I was actually traveling. So I was with a mask. No one else was with a mask, so I felt very strange. But the numbers there, I think it's 115,000 deaths, and this coronavirus, it's been like around 6,000, around those numbers. So why are we panicking more? The difference was with the other one, the moment you were infected, you could see the signs, the symptoms, and then you were contagious. So we could actually isolate you. Right now, it's the opposite. You may get it, and then you show symptoms. So you may be fine, spreading around the virus. And that's why isolation is definitely the first thing you should actually do.
Yeah, and actually, what you say, it took me a little while to acknowledge that, because when the news came through that, first of all, my area went into lockdown. I live in the Pesaro Urbino area of Italy, and that was one of the first areas to go into lockdown. The next day, I had to travel to do an important video for my YouTube channel. And my first reaction was, well, no, I'm going. Nobody's going to stop me. I can say to the police, I'm an Englishman traveling to wherever, leave me alone. And then a very good friend of mine sort of pulled me up and made me reason on it. And I realized that I could do that, but I could be carrying the virus and not even know. I could stop off at an auto grill, and by the way, the food in the Italian auto grills is just the best in the world. Stop off at an auto grill, get served by an elderly Italian lady, have a coffee or whatever, give them the virus without even knowing that I was carrying it. If I was a carrier, and I don't know if I am or not, nobody knows.
Of course.
So I think it's just being responsible to just self-isolate.
Correct. Yeah, that thing is my biggest fear is the one I've sadly, and I'll say this because we are far away talking to each other through a camera, but when I was a kid, I was actually always a carrier. My brother was always deathly sick. They didn't understand why. He had allergies, he had fevers. They were always at the hospital. He was a year older than me, and I was fine. I didn't even know what a headache was until I was a teenager. And then they tested me, and I was always sick, but I never had symptoms. So I was actually always a carrier. So I've always felt I'm always healthy, but doesn't mean that people around me are actually healthy because they may be
Well,
spreading.
people around you, you're going to be sick all the time if you're a carrier.
I did not say this at the office. Now that we're isolated, it's out. But yeah. Well, I wanted to wrap this up. I would love to learn more. Things are evolving so rapidly. So definitely catch up again. So thank you, David, so much for taking the time.
Thanks for calling me.
And guys, please don't forget, David, where can we find you? How can we follow you?
Find me on yachts on YouTube. All you have to do is put in the search parameter yachts for sale. That's the name of my channel. And can I just immodestly say I kind of dominate that search parameter. So you'll find lots and lots of videos from the Yachts for Sale channel if you just search yachts for sale on YouTube.
Yeah, he's killing it on Google searches as well. He's at the top of all your searches. So um,
Very much.
so go follow him. I'll write he's also on Instagram. You'll get his information on the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see David again. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.